My thought was that the pair of vases must have been something old Zhang treasured deeply. For some reason, he was forced to sell them, but he couldn't bear the idea of such precious items falling into someone else's hands. So he sent that big black cat to destroy them. The strange part of this idea lies in the fact that the key character is a cat. If it had been a dog, the theory might barely make sense. Dogs can be trained to do many things for humans. But I had never heard of a cat being trained to carry out something so complicated. I gave a bitter smile, opened the door, and walked out. Since the thought of a dog came to mind, I stopped after only a few steps. A dog. Dogs and cats are natural enemies, and dogs are particularly sensitive to the smell of cats. If I had a good police dog, wouldn't I be able to track down old Zhang through the cat? I hailed a cab, and 10 minutes later, I found Jamie at the officer's residential quarters. After listening to my account, Jamie stared at me for a while before shaking his head helplessly. "All right," he said. "I'll go with you to find a police dog." I knew he wasn't happy about joining me. From a police officer's perspective, only criminal cases are worth attention. Mysterious incidents aren't part of his professional responsibilities. But the matter started because of him. If he hadn't mentioned old Zhang during that casual conversation, then even if I saw an old cat break a pair of vases, I would never have investigated further. So he had some responsibility in helping me. Jamie and I checked the police dog registry. We found 2 dogs that were especially sensitive to the scent of cats. We went to see them, and among them, I chose a strong, impressive Great Dane. Seeing that I had made my choice, Jamie looked relieved. He said, "I'll leave you two to it," gave a few instructions to the dog handler, and left on his own. I took the Great Dane with the handler, rode in a police car, and went straight to the nouveau riche's mansion. As soon as we stepped into the spacious villa, the Great Dane grew restless. It whimpered lowly and strained several times to break free from the handler's leash. Even after repeated scolding, it remained uneasy. Of course, I noticed the dog's behavior. Animals, especially dogs, are far more sensitive than humans. If the dog was this unsettled, had it sensed something? But from what I could see, the luxurious living room seemed perfectly normal. The handler also looked uneasy. When we explained the purpose of our visit to the butler, the Great Dane suddenly crouched low, whining nervously. The butler recognized me. After hearing the situation, he said, "All right, Sir and Madam are still at the hospital, but I can make the decisions here. Then please take us to the antique room," I said. The butler nodded and turned to lead the way. The handler tugged hard at the leash, trying to get the dog up, but the Great Dane stubbornly pressed its front legs against the floor, refusing to move. Its whining grew even more pitiful. Only after the handler yanked it up with both hands did the dog reluctantly stand. Even the butler noticed something was off. "What's wrong with the dog?" he asked.
The handler frowned. "Strange. This one's one of our best. Always obedient. I've never seen it act like this. Maybe it senses something strange in the house," I said. The butler, clearly superstitious, turned pale. "Mr. Wei, don't scare me like that." The handler added, "It might be picking up some unusual scent." The Great Dane's uneasiness increased as we neared the antique room. When the butler opened the door, the dog's fur stood on end as it barked frantically inside. Its barking was sharp and chaotic, echoing non-stop. The handler and I exchanged glances before dragging the dog into the room. The moment it entered, the dog lunged toward the antique cabinet with incredible force. The handler's grip slipped, the dog broke free and charged. Seeing a 100-pound police dog charging straight at shelves of priceless antiques, I was shocked. The butler screamed behind me. This was far worse than when the black cat broke the vases. If the dog crashed into that cabinet, half the antiques inside would be ruined. The handler froze, helpless. The dog was too fast. No one could stop it. Sweat formed in my palms. The dog was mine to command. If it caused disaster, I wouldn't escape responsibility. I braced for the sound of antiques shattering. But just a foot away from the cabinet, the dog suddenly dropped flat, barking wildly. Then it spun around and dashed toward the window. I remembered, after breaking the vases, the black cat had also leaped onto the windowsill. The dog must have picked up the same scent. Its fear, agitation, and sudden behavior, it was all because it sensed that old black cat. "Grab the dog!" I shouted. But just then, the Great Dane barked madly again and leapt from the window area. The handler tried to stop it, but the dog knocked him to the ground and bolted out the door. The handler rolled, jumped to his feet, and the two of us chased after it. We had barely stepped out when screams came from the back of the house. Crashing noises followed. We reached the back door where several servants looked terrified. "Where's the dog?" I asked. A male servant pointed with a trembling hand. It jumped over the wall, just like that, gone." The handler rushed outside. The quiet alley behind the house was empty. No sign of the huge Great Dane. The handler stomped in frustration. The butler hurried over. "Mr. Wei, I'm sorry, but I need to close the doors now." I couldn't blame him. The dog almost caused a disaster minutes ago. We nodded and left. I said to the handler, "We'll take the car and try to follow." But after several streets, there was still no trace of the dog. With all the intersecting roads, it was impossible to track. We exchanged bitter smiles. We had come with a police dog to track the black cat, only to lose the dog itself. Still, one thing was certain. The Great Dane must have caught the black cat's scent and chased after it. Unfortunately, now we had lost both. I frowned. Is it always this sensitive to cat scent? The handler sighed. No, it's sensitive, sure, but never like this. I've been with it for 3 years. Never seen it act this way. Dogs don't behave strangely for no reason, I said. What do you think caused this? No idea, he replied. And when we first arrived, it looked terrified. You pulled and pulled, but it wouldn't budge. Then suddenly, it broke loose and charged forward. Why? The handler said, Great Danes like this one are incredibly brave. They'd fight even a tiger. I think at first it wasn't scared. It was being cautious. I fell silent. My doubts not only remained, they grew. What was different about that black cat? I didn't know, but there had to be something. The mere trace of its scent had thrown a well-trained police dog into chaos. The dog must have sensed something extraordinary. Unfortunately, it was gone. We circled the neighborhood a few more times before the handler said, Forget it. It's well-trained. It'll return by itself. Sorry, sir. Should we get another dog to try again? No need, I sighed. He drove me home before returning to the station. The moment I stepped in, Back Tong walked over. What happened? I told her everything. She listened quietly and said, If this happened 200 years ago, people would think the black cat was a demon spirit. I let out a dry laugh. Honestly, it does seem more like a cat spirit than a real cat. She smiled softly. Though she said nothing more, I knew she thought I was letting my frustration and confusion cloud my judgment. Thinking back on my conclusion, I had to admit it was silly. Of course it doesn't count, she said. Naturally it didn't. There were simply too many questions. Who exactly was old Zhang? What was he hammering every day? Why did he leave a cat's internal organs behind when he first moved? What was that six-sided plate in the chest? Why was half of it covered with tiny spikes? And what made that black cat so bizarre, so abnormal? Maybe answering one question would unravel the rest, but right now, I had none.
Even though this whole matter technically had nothing to do with me, my curiosity was too strong. If I were someone who could just walk away, I wouldn't have encountered so many strange things in life. Bactan knew she couldn't persuade me. After looking at me for a moment, she asked, "How can I help?" I sighed. I don't even know where to start. How can you help me? She didn't say anything more and gently shifted the topic to something else. That night I slept terribly, dreaming strange, chaotic dreams. I woke up at noon, exhausted. Just as I was wondering how to continue searching for old Zhang, the phone rang. It was Jamie. He said, "Wei, do you want to come see last night's police dog?" I paused. "Oh? The dog came back?" "No," Jamie replied. "Someone found it in an alley. We brought it back. It's dead." I froze. The massive Great Dane? Dead? After a moment, I said, "What's the point of looking at a dead dog?" Jamie said, "Just come. You might find the cause of death interesting." I asked, "How did it die?" He said, "We're not sure yet. Come and see. We should examine it together."
Another strange development. I told him I'd head over immediately. At the station, Jamie, the handler, and several officers were waiting. As we walked inside, we ran into Colonel Jack. He clapped my shoulder and said, "My friend, I hate seeing you. Trouble always follows." "I'm not here for you, Colonel," I said. "I'm here to see a dead dog." He must have thought I was insulting him. The color drained from his face. Jamie quickly explained, "Colonel, a police dog has died. We're bringing Mr. Wee to help us examine it." Jack blinked, then chuckled and left. We entered the lab, where a small cold storage chamber held the dog's body. The handler opened the drawer, and I stared. The huge Great Dane lay covered in blood. There was not a single intact patch of skin. It had been clawed everywhere. Long, thin, deep scratches, some reaching bone. Such scratches could not have come from a large beast. Anyone who saw them would immediately think of one thing: cat claws. I whispered, "Cat." Jamie nodded. Cat claws, yes, but how could a 97-pound, highly trained police dog be killed by a cat? I remembered my first encounter with the black cat, its sudden ambush, my clothes torn despite landing a hit. I also remembered the claw marks on the rich man's face. Half an inch closer, and the cat would have torn out his eye. I muttered, ordinary cats couldn't, but that black cat could. Jamie said, "So the black cat you mentioned before was actually a lynx?" Lynxes are fierce animals. North American ones, especially. Almost as dangerous as leopards. His assumption was understandable. But the black cat was no lynx. A lynx and a cat may look similar, and maybe black lynxes exist, but I could clearly tell the difference. Old Zhang's cat was just that, a cat. A very large black cat, not a lynx. "Who said it was a lynx?" I replied. Jamie pointed at the dead dog. "If not, how do you explain this?" "I can't," I said. "The cat is simply too strange. That's why I came to find you last night, hoping to track it down." Jamie frowned. "This matter has nothing to do with the police, but if the cat is that dangerous, it could threaten the public. We must find old Zhang." "That's good," I said. "The police will find him far easier than I will. If you receive any information, please tell me." Jamie nodded. "Sure. Honestly, I don't see what's so mysterious. It must be a vicious lynx." I didn't argue. There was no point. He hadn't seen the cat. I looked again at the poor dog. It had clearly fought fiercely before dying. It must have sensed danger as soon as it detected the black cat's scent, but it chased after it anyway.
"Jamie," I said, "you can at least do two things. First, check the dog's claws. There may be fur or skin from the black cat. Second, take other police dogs to the alley where the body was found." Jamie stared at me, puzzled, as if he hadn't heard anything. After a moment, he asked, "You're saying it was just a normal cat?" "I'm saying it wasn't a lynx," I replied loudly. "It was just an unusually large, fat, black cat. But it clearly wasn't ordinary. Ordinary cats can't kill a Great Dane. And it attacked me, too. If I hadn't dodged, my arm would still be injured." Jamie sighed, then said suddenly, "Wei, how about I ask you to handle this case? What do you say?" I blinked. "Why? Because the police don't think it's worth investigating? Or is there some other reason?" "Of course there's another reason. This case is too mysterious, but there's no sign of criminal activity. If the police handle it formally, there's no justification." I understood his dilemma. After pacing a few steps, I nodded. "All right, but I have one condition. Tell Colonel Jack everything. It's better that he knows." "Of course, you're an old friend of the Colonel's. He'll agree to let you take over. If you need help, just ask. We'll assist you however we can."